Good morning. Please join me in the salute to the flag and a moment of silence. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to begin today by honoring one of our retiring employees, Ray Rios, Park and Grounds Operations Supervisor, who started his career with us 37 years ago. November 1969, he became a part-time worker for the park. In 1970, he became a full-time custodian at the courthouse. But his first love was the park, and returned to the park as soon as he could. Ray has been the grounds operational supervisor since 1989. He's done an outstanding job for the last 17 years. Ray supervises the operations of 10 county parks covering approximately 800 acres. He was instrumental in the construction of the park's 10 new playgrounds, and during Ray's tenure, we planted over 3,000 trees. Ray has a staff of 9, and it's very obvious they're very sad to see him go because he has an attitude to get things done. He has common sense and practical solutions to many of the issues in our parks. Ray has been married for 39 years to his wife Martha. They have 3 children, 7 grandchildren. And Ray was in the military from 1964 to 67 and did 1 tour in Vietnam. Ray enjoys camping, bird watching, and spending time with his grandchildren. Ray's nickname at RMA is Ray of Sunshine. They say he's a real happy guy. Ray is very proud of the work our Parks Department has done, and especially enjoys one of the jewels of the county park system, Balch Park. Ray will be truly missed by everyone at RMA, and we all wish him the very best as he starts his retirement. Ray, could you come forward, please? Award we give in the county for his 37 years of service to Clark County. Is your family here?
Yes, yes.
Please stand. We also would like to recognize Ray's family because they're an important part of his success. So, congratulations to you all.
Well, I just want to say a little things here. I want to thank the County of Tulare for giving me the opportunity to have belonged to its workforce for this past 37 years. I will miss many of my friends that I made during the 37 years of work here. I have no complaints. I also want to thank Mr. Pilligard, Mr. Howell, for the opportunity that I have shared working with them this past five years with Mr. Pilligard and a year with Mr. Howell. Thank you very much. No complaints.
I recognize Tulare County Employees Retirement Association for receiving the Public Pension Fund Award for Excellence for a small public plan. Ms. Conway?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Dave. I put this on the agenda and asked you to pay attention to this. I have the privilege of representing this board on the Retirement System Board. But this is no small feat, and maybe pensions are on my mind, pension benefits, because of the governor appointing me to serve on the Benefits Committee, but there are plans that do it right and that work well, and so with your kind indulgence, I've asked Mr. Keeler, our administrator, to just talk to us a little bit about the award and what that means to the county. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Supervisor Conway. Tulare County Employees Retirement Association is very proud to have been named as the Small Public Pension Plan of the Year by Money Management Letter, an industry letter that looks at plans throughout the United States and Canada in making its selection. I had the opportunity to speak with their managing editor a little bit this morning and asked specifically what were some of the characteristics of a plan of the year, and she indicated to me that for Tulare, certainly our investment performance over the last year and over the last 10 years has been excellent and one that really caught their eye. They also mentioned that plan innovations, the fact that our trustees are deeply involved in the process and are making selections and better diversifying the plan and its management through looking at value-added real estate and better use of our cash through futures overlay programs and the like, really made us innovative in their eyes and one that was worthy of the award that they've granted to us. I'd like to mention that we're in good company. The City of New Orleans and County of Shelby, Tennessee, were also finalists for the Small Plan of the Year. And asked too, what makes us different from the other plans. They said that they categorize them three different major groups: large, medium, and small. A small plan is one that's defined as having $1 billion or less in total assets under management. So we barely squeaked by because we just crossed over that line earlier this year. I'm also pleased to let you know that I'm joined here by other trustees of the plan. Besides Supervisor Conway, we have Mr. Roland Hill, Captain Kevin Meisner, and Mr. Mike Whitlock in the audience as well. And again, we look forward to moving on into the future and perhaps in the not too distant future being the medium plan of the year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Chairman, if you'd indulge me, if the three other gentlemen, the Vice Chairman currently, Mr. Whitlock and Captain Meisner and Mr. Hill would just stand up so we can look at you and applaud you. Thank you. These employees put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's obviously not without its reward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we'll be meeting soon in a joint meeting with the Retirement Association to even get you more apprised of what's happening there. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. We have the honor today of declaring March 18th through 24th National Agriculture Week in Tulare County. If Keith and Tricia. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to present you this proclamation. We often review the numbers of our agricultural industry in Tulare County. Quickly, I'd like to say that milk is our number one product in Tulare County with a gross value of $1.4 billion. Represents a third of the agricultural production in our county. Then the second one is citrus. Citrus, we are the Well, this year we have. But it's our second largest crop dollar-wise, and the dollar amount is about $582 million. What a lot of people do not realize, 39% of this crop is exported out of the country. So it does have a value not only to Tulare County, but it does have a value to the balance of trade. So with that, I'd like to present you this resolution declaring.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Yoshida. I just wanted to thank the Board of Supervisors for their policies and decisions that help keep agriculture in Tulare County number one. And we really appreciate everything you do for us, and we look forward to working with you. You've been great to work with in the past, and really appreciate everything you've done. So thank you very much for this honor. I'll turn it over to Tricia. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Chairman Ishida, members of the Board of Supervisors. On behalf of Tulare County Farm Bureau, we would be remiss if we couldn't thank you first for the atmosphere and the tone that you set in representing agriculture in this county. On behalf of the Farm Bureau, we want to thank you for this proclamation and for taking time on your busy schedule today to allow us to make a brief presentation in recognition of National Agriculture Week. I would also like to recognize that the baskets that have been prepared here for each of you are from a local nut company, Natural Nuts, and that's just a small token of agriculture's appreciation that we'd like to extend to each of you to take home today. So thank you very much. As mentioned in this beautiful proclamation, agriculture leads the nation in this state and certainly in this county, as Tulare is one of the top producing counties in the entire United States. Here alone, our 2005 crop report, as reported by Commissioner Gary Kunkel, represents more than $4 billion in gross production. And that's an increase of 8% over previous years. So I am proud to tell you it is continuing to grow and be a more efficient and effective driver of our economy here in this county. As Chairman Ishida mentioned, milk continues to lead our county as top production value, more than $1.4 billion in gross production value. It's also important that in addition to our dairies and our cattle and calves, Tulare County has more than 140 additional crops, many of which would be considered specialty crops, that account for an additional $1.7 billion in value to our county. As mentioned, citrus fruit and grapes directly account for nearly 70% of all of our fruit and nut exports in the county. Agriculture is the #1 industry in this county, and 2 out of every 3 jobs that are created in this county are directly related to agriculture. As County Farm Bureau in this county, we are very proud of our role in being that organization that advocates for farming and ranching and helps advance policy and decision-making that gives you direction and ideas on how to better support this important economic engine. We have made a very strong investment and commitment to youth in this county through our agriculture education efforts. We recognize that the youth of this county are the future leaders and decision makers that will be making decisions about how this county looks decades ahead. As such, part of our commitment to youth education and outreach includes our school garden grants program, our school garden plant giveaway, our youth leadership internship program, which you've had some direct involvement with recently, as well as scholarships totaling more than $17,000 each year annually through our fundraising efforts. In celebration of this National Agriculture Week, we are proud to bring to you today the student winners of our annual calendar art contest. Those young adults from grades K through 12 have submitted more than 1,200 entries from more than 42 schools in the county, and the top individuals are here with us today. I want to also acknowledge that this is a partnership. This calendar art program is a joint program between the County Office of Education, the Nutrition Network, And I want to take just a moment and say thank you to Superintendent Jim Vidak. I'm not sure if the superintendent is here with us today, but he is an incredibly supportive individual for agriculture and certainly for agriculture outreach and education in the community. So we thank the superintendent for his role in our program efforts. At this time, I'd like to call forward Elizabeth Knudsen, our program coordinator. She's going to assist the supervisors as they present the certificates to students from their respective districts.
I just want to make a quick announcement, and that is, unfortunately, we don't have the calendar today because, as the printer said, they had some problems in the printing, and it was to the point where there's still ball bearings from the machinery all over the floor. So they had a major print breakdown, so we apologize for that, but we will get them to everybody. I want to call Connie Conway, come down and start the award process.
Oh, they don't have any art in District 1?
We get a freeze.
Our overall winner for this year's contest that has our cover art piece is Cecilia Espinoza from Mulcahy Middle School in Tulare. Cecilia.
I'd like to speak.
I would just like to thank my parents and my family for being so supportive of me. And I would also like to thank my teacher, Ms. Kuje, for being so encouraging. And I would like to accept this award in memory of my friend Emma. She passed away Sunday, and so she was going to come, but it's too bad that she couldn't come. Most importantly, I would like to thank God for making all this possible. Thank you.
I would like to add how proud we are, and I am, of Cecilia. That's beautiful work. And I think maybe after that wonderful speech and presentation, that you may be looking at the future supervisor from District 2. But maybe not yet. Congratulations, Cecilia. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
Here was Cecilia's winning art piece, which was the cover for our calendar. Next individual we'd like to call is Jessica Campos. These are all winners from Conway's district, and she will have the September month, which will recognize corn. And if Jessica could please make her way to the front, please. Jessica is also from Mulcahy Middle School in Tulare.
She's deferring. She doesn't want to speak. But congratulations. Congratulations. Great job.
Next, we have Devin Gonzalez, K3 winner from Conn Elementary in Tulare. Devin. Devin's artwork features apricots. Congratulations. Next, we have Ashley Silas, 7th and 8th grade winner, Mulcahy Middle School, Tulare. Ashley, please come forward. Ashley's picture represents onions. Next, we have Alexis Venegas, 7th, 8th grade winner from Mulcahy Middle School in Tulare. Alexis. Alexis's art will be our May calendar page representing cherries. Thank you, Supervisor Conway. We'll now bring forth Supervisor Cox.
Bring forth.
Next, we have Katie Kochevar, 4th through 6th grade winner, Royal Oak Elementary School here in Visalia. Please come forward. Katie's art represents our extra page, which is kind of our freelance page of unique art that represents an important aspect of agriculture here in the county.
Cool that we have the screen so we can see the artwork.
Next, we have Dustin Kong, K through 2 winner, Mountain View Elementary School here in Visalia. Dustin. Dustin has many veggies on that page, but his theme was the mushrooms. Also from Royal Oaks Elementary School, 2nd grader, Milana Manquin, K2 winner. Milana chose pumpkins for her theme.
I'd like to have that in my living room.
Next, we have 6th grader Destiny Pinn for the 4th through 6th grade category, also Royal Oaks in Visalia.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Supervisor Cox. Supervisor Worthley. Next, for the month of January, our citrus art winner was Esmerna Bedoy, Dinuba High School in Dinuba, a 10th grader.
There she goes.
Next, from 9th grade, Adelini Ceballos, our 9th through 12th grade winner, Woodlake High School in Woodlake. Her theme was eggplant. Next, we have 5th grader Kayleen Contreras from Wilson Elementary in Dinuba. Not sure if Israel's here with us today. Israel Gallardo? Oh, very good. Israel, please join us. Israel is in the 8th grade at Washington Intermediate School, also in Dinuba, for our 7th and 8th grade category. He chose to represent peppers in his artwork. Our final recognition this morning is for Victor Nicholas, a 12th grader from Orosi High School in Orosi, California, 9th through 12th grade. Each of the calendar winners take home today a certificate as well as a cash prize on behalf of the Farm Bureau. I know you extend your congratulations and certificates as well to them. And I just want to mention that all 1,200 entries in the program will be recognized with a ribbon for their participation. So we are very proud of this year's calendar, as we always are. It does a wonderful job representing agriculture here in the county. We thank you for your indulgence of time today, and we are done. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that this is my 9th year of having the privilege of welcoming and thanking the children for participating. And I have to tell you, I honestly think this is some of the finest artwork that I have seen. And it was really, really well done from all ages and all groups. And I just wanted to say thank you to the students, and also especially thank you to the teachers. Because, you know, it's the art teacher who oftentimes sort of encourages the kids to get involved in this process. So thank you very, very much. It was really well done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would want to thank the Farm Bureau for sponsoring this and giving the students an opportunity. And speaking of students, the scholarship program and all the education that's available from the Farm Bureau, I think it's really important. But once again, to the students, I don't know, I'm thinking about contracting for some art for my home. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was beautiful. Wonderful work, and congratulations once again to each and every one of these students that participated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I also would like to thank the Farm Bureau and all the students that participated, and hopefully I can get a hold of one of these calendars, because I think that'd be very, very good to have. And a lot of these pictures look like, in fact, the top winner looked like a label off of the old orange boxes we used to get years ago. So you're really to be commended. Excellent. I guess Alan and I got froze out this year. We didn't have a winner, so. But congratulations again, and thanks again to the Farm Bureau for a great effort. Thank you.
This is my third meeting where we make this annual presentation. It's probably one of my favorite meetings. The calendar is absolutely first class, and if you have a chance to get your hands on one, I strongly recommend it. It is something that you will hang up because of the quality of the work and just the inspiration from the young men and women that are here today. I also like to thank the Farm Bureau for sponsoring this program and the art teachers who bring out the creative part of all our students. So thank you very much.
We'll take the consent calendar.
This time we'll take up our consent calendar. Are there any items that we need to discuss separately?
No.
Seeing none.
Chairman, I would move approval of our consent calendar items 6 through 22.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please cast your ballot. Conway, did you push the wrong button?
What did I push? Uh-oh, that's wrong.
Okay, the vote's
I voted
unanimous to accept the consent calendar.
Sorry, I had to put my glasses on.
So for clarification, she voted yes instead of no.
Yes, I voted yes after I voted no.
Thank you, Senator.
But I really meant to vote yes.
Moving to our timed items, item number 4, Resource Management Agency.
Phone's ringing, Maddox. Maddox, your phone's ringing.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Bruce Kendall with Tulare County Code Compliance and board members. Yes. Today is a public hearing on an appeal of an administrative hearing officer's decision on violation V as in Victor 203-070, and this is for Mr. and Mrs. Landers. And I am here today to request the Board of Supervisors to uphold the appeal, deny the appeal and uphold the decision for the administrative hearing officer. And a brief summary of this violation. This violation is located at 26190 Road 118 north of Tulare, and the APN number is 150-05023, and the property owners are listed as Donald K. and Helen B. Landers. This site involves the violation V as in Victor 203-070. The occupant of the property is William Landers, the son of the property owners. And the violation consists of violation of Section 715-1000 through 1065 of the Tulare County's ordinance code that governs the building permits and inspection requirements. This was a hay barn and shade structures built without building permits. Mr. and Mrs. Landers are requesting an appeal hearing by the Tulare County Board of Supervisors concerning the Resource Management Agency's recent administrative hearing that was held on January 17, 2007. President of the administrative hearing for the property owners were William Landers, son of the property owner, and Rachel Hill, daughter of the property owner. Staff presented a staff report to the hearing officer, and testimony was given by the property owner's spokespersons. During the hearing, it was determined that a code compliance agreement could be offered, and it would enable the property owners additional time needed to abate the violations on the property. The code compliance agreement was offered by the staff and supported by the hearing officer during the administrative hearing. The property owners made a decision not to enter into this code compliance agreement for additional time to abate the violation and reduce the fines posed by this ordinance. The decision was rendered by the administrative hearing officer finding for the County of Tulare in this matter. The following is a brief of that violation. On April 19, 2004, staff found that the site owned by the Landers contained one illegal mobile home along with one legal single-family dwelling. In addition, there was an illegally constructed hay barn and stable shade structure. It was also noted that on the site was solid waste, too many animals, and inoperative vehicles. Notice of violation was mailed to the property owners on April 20, 2004. On April 26, 2004, the son-in-law of the property owners came in and spoke with staff at RMA concerning the illegal second unit, which is the illegal mobile home. A 30-day extension of time was granted to the property owners to abate the violation at that time. And in our notes, we see there's no activity on this site, no permits were obtained or inspections requested between April 26, 2004 and September 19, 2006. On December 20, 2006, after inspection, a 30-day notice was mailed to the property owners. On October 10, 2006, William Landers, son of the property owner, met with staff at the RMA counter, discussed his violations. He also discussed the $270 fee that was associated with the 30-day notice. On December 12, 2006, Jesse Villegas, Code Compliance Officer 1, inspected the site and found that at that time the mobile home, which was illegal, had been removed from the site. The inoperative vehicles had been removed. The number of animals on the site had been reduced to 10, which was an allowed number, but the hay barn and shade structure still remained on site. On December 18th, notice of violation order to show cause was mailed by certified mail and regular mail and also hand-delivered to the property owners. On December 21st, 2006, Rachel Hill, daughter of Don Landers, met with the staff and discussed the building permit requirements needed to abate the violations. And on January 17, 2007, an administrative hearing was held in the Planning Commission room concerning this violation. Representatives of the property owners decided they did not want to enter into a code compliance agreement and stated that instead they planned to appeal this matter to the Board of Supervisors. The administrative hearing officer ruled in favor of the County of Tulare and levied fines of $3,000 with the cost of recovery to the county in the amount of $1,050. And in conclusion, I do want to point out to the board that there was no fees expended by this county for the abatement of this property. The shade structure and the hay barn were claimed to be there for the last 20 years by Mr. Landers. And that is a requirement to have building permits for that. We have always required building permits for these structures, and that's what it means for our appeal today. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I have a question, and I guess thank you for reading what you gave us to read previously. It really wasn't necessary. Everything you read, you'd already given us, and we've already read.
I understand.
But after all the history, we're down to this hay barn, correct? Everything else is taken care of except the hay barn. And we've got pictures of this hay barn, and it looks like every other hay barn in the county. Is that not correct?
That's pretty much the case.
Is it permittable? Is this engineerable? Is it permittable? Is this something that could receive a permit if a drawing was done and they walked into the front counter to pick up a permit?
That is correct. The structure itself would be allowed to have a building permit after the required engineering has been submitted to the building department at RMA. The zone of the property will allow the hay structure to remain on the site, along with the shade structure for the horses also.
So in your permission, as you've looked at this, this is something that would pass code, would be permittable without additional work or additional welding, framing, or whatever?
I can't comment on passing of the codes because of the engineering would determine what might need to be done to bring it up to current code, but it's substantially built. It probably would not take that much expenditure to bring it up to code.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. And please identify yourself and give us your address.
Okay, Rachel Hill. I'm daughter of Don and Helen Landers. My address is 1701 East Waddell Avenue in Lindsay, California. I'm here representing my parents today because they are unable physically to come and appear. Basically, what we are asking is that 28 years ago, and I do have an aerial photograph of the hay barn and portable stalls. They were professionally manufactured, professionally installed, and at that time, my brother went to the county assessor's office in the county building and asked if he needed a permit. He was told at that time, no, you do not need a permit. These are portable stalls. So he did not pursue it any further. He is saying over the years he has had county people out and said that everything was okay, did not need a permit. I have no written documentation of that. At the last hearing, the Resource Management Agency said, "Who did you speak to?" And quite frankly, 28 years ago, 28 days ago, I couldn't tell you who I spoke to or who he spoke to. So we have no written proof. All we have is what Will said he was told when he went down to get a building permit, was that he did not need it. The company that installed his structures are no longer in business. They moved to Utah from California and are no longer in business, so we couldn't contact them for their statement. So what we are asking is, we feel like the whole thing should be a wash because we were told that he did not need a building permit. And that was the assumption that we went on. When we got the violation, we took care of all the violations. My brother was involved in an automobile accident 5 years ago, was unable to work. Matter of fact, he can no longer train horses like what he was doing for a living. So financially, it's a grave hardship for him to have to pay for anything. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one question. I guess another question from Ms. Kendall. 28 years ago was the building permit department at the assessor's office?
No, the building permit department has always been with building permit department.
Okay.
The assessor's office was merely a way of means of assessing values on property.
I think the question is was the building permit department
In that
located?
building.
28 years ago, it was located in the courthouse. The assessor's office has been in the annex of the courthouse.
So they're not right, they weren't right next door to each other or in the same
They were on
room?
opposite ends of the building on the same floor, but opposite ends of the building.
I do have a question. Listening to your testimony, Ms. Hill, you indicated that there was a statement about the stalls being portable, but you did not really address the issue of the hay barn. That's a separate issue. That was a permanent structure, was it not?
Portable. They're all portable.
They're not affixed to the ground? Not.
No. The poles aren't sunk
No,
in the
the
ground?
poles can be removed, everything can be removed. It's all pinned in place.
Okay. And then my question back to the county would be, I realize we're looking back 28 years. Is there substance to that? I mean, notwithstanding what they may have been told, but even if they were told incorrectly, did we require such permits 28 years ago for portable structures such as that?
We follow what the Uniform Building Code states. All structures need building permits. This county would provide them at that time an agricultural exempt permit, which had been a fee exempt, but it still required a building permit for the structure.
Mr. Chairman, that was, in my mind, I know there was some ag exemption if there's not electricity or other things hooked up to the structure, Bruce, so I was just wondering, what ag exempt buildings actually meant.
We changed that terminology in approximately 1999. It was somewhat misleading. Agricultural exempt meant just strictly fee exempt from fees, but it still required a building permit. Today we call them strictly fee exempt. We don't call agricultural exempt anymore.
So what you're saying is that 28 years ago, there wouldn't have been a fee, but they still would have had to get a permit?
They still would have needed to obtain a building permit.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other, this is a public hearing. Anybody else wish to speak to this matter?
Mr. Chair, may I be rude and talk directly to the Landers for a second, please? Sure.
You can talk to them. You don't have to be rude.
Okay. I won't be rude. You might see it as rude. As we look at what's been done here, I'm inclined to say you need to probably take one of the options here, which is agree to the let's see what I call it, to the administrative hearings officer's recommendation and enter into a code compliance agreement. It's going to cost you a lot less to have an engineer draw you up a page of engineering for a building permit than the $4,000 fine and fees you're looking at. So
I understand what you're saying. I understood that if we came here and appealed, this was our opportunity to waive the whole thing. If you don't find in our favor, then it's my understanding that we can still do the co-compliance. But if we were told 28 years ago we don't need a permit, it's a moot point, in my opinion. I feel like it's totally unfair that you're told that you don't need something, and 28 years later, the terminology has changed, and now, oh, yes, you do need to have that. I mean, all the other infractions we took care of. Every letter that I've written to the or that my mother has written to the Resource Management Agency, I address this one violation. Again, we feel this is an unfair ruling, as we had these inspected approximately 22 years ago when they were installed. Again, I would like to address this violation, express our deepest disagreement with your findings. When the portable stalls and portable hay cover were installed 22 or so years ago, the inspector at that time okayed these structures. I again would like to voice our objection to the violation V, blah, 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 when Will purchased the property originally and had the portable stalls and portable hay cover placed on the property. An inspector from Tulare County came out to his home and assured him that a building permit was not necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question. You indicated that the manufacturer of this company still exists, but they don't exist in this area?
No, they're out of business.
They're
they
out of
moved
business.
from California to Idaho. I said Utah, Idaho.
Are they still in business in Idaho? Oh, no. Okay.
The owner died of the company.
Mr. Chairman, I offered this as a suggestion, but in my mind, justice, there's an old expression, justice delayed is justice denied. Part of the problem here is 28 years have expired, and let's not forget the purpose of enforcing building code requirements is to make sure that buildings are safe. Here's a building that's been standing for 28 years. It's almost like a self-serving situation. It hasn't proven itself to be a safe building. 28 years of hail and rain and wind, and let's not forget this is not people living under this. This is a hay barn, so if it fell down, it wouldn't kill anybody but a hay bale. I just sense that in this case, and I understand, I appreciate the compliance that's been done on other matters, the cleaning up, the removal of vehicles, the removal of mobile home that was improperly placed. I think under these circumstances, I would be inclined to, deny or uphold the appeal and deny the county's position in light of these circumstances. I mean, had we acted quickly, more recently, they would have been able to gotten the kind of information that was needed for no expense from the manufacturer. The manufacturer is now no longer in existence, and it's because of this long delay that this has happened. So, in my mind, the equities here are in the favor of the property owner.
Close the public hearing before we get to that.
You want to close the public hearing?
Yes. Anyone else like to speak to this matter during the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We have this scheduled for closed session.
We do, Mr. Chairman. If you wish to adjourn to closed session, we can.
We would. While we're in closed session, to facilitate the next item on our agenda, we have forms for you to fill out if you wish to address the board on item number 5.
Alan, only about the findings.
Yes.
Clarify that. I would clarify that.
And when you speak on the dairy issue, you have to keep your comments to the findings of the information that we have been presented during our public hearings.
I'm sorry.
Did this get left out of our package or something, or is this change? Or?
Okay, on item 3, we closed the public hearing, and I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the testimony that we've had this morning, I believe that the board can make the finding, and it'd be my motion that we find that the applicant was advised that he did not need a permit 28 years ago to construct the structure in question, that in reliance upon that statement from the county, structure was built, has been continuously in use without any apparent safety issues, and in light of that, I would uphold deny the decision of the administrative hearing officer, uphold the appeal, and therefore would waive all costs and charges against the applicant, except the filing fee for the $300 for appealing this to the Board of Supervisors.
Second. There's been a motion and seconded.
I'm sorry, where was the second?
Couldn't hear.
Mr. Ennis.
Please cast your ballot. Motion carries unanimously. The appeal has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, on another note, I think it would behoove us to look into issues regarding he said, she said, and how we look at these structures going forward. It's not on today's agenda, but it was certainly part of what we're doing, and so just hopeful that we can work with staff and work some of these issues out so we don't get to this point.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Supervisor Conway, that we need to look at some policy issues regarding older structures that have been in the county. And we have structures in the county that there weren't building permits when they were built. So we will look into that issue.
Mr. Rashid, I would just like to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing us to come today. I appreciate your findings, and I would also like to thank Mr. Kendall. He has been very helpful to us in this process, and I don't like to speak in front of people either.
You did a good job, Ms. Stone. And I would like to just add, Mr. Chairman, that this in no way is a reflection upon our staff, and they were simply doing their job. And this is really a policy issue. I think that's why Ms. Conway brought that up, that we do need to address, because we certainly have a lot of structures like this that are in the county, and it is this problem of a long-term delay in any kind of enforcement activity.
And it also behooves the fact that you did take care of the code enforcement managers that were legitimate on this property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving to item 5. I have to read a statement, so bear with me. The matter before the Board of Supervisors as agenda item 5 is a continued public comment on the final decision on a special use permit application number PSP 96-072 requested by Sam Etchegary for the establishment of 2 dairies in an AE 40 zone. The early marked ranch dairy facility to be located on 160 acres in the northeast quarter of Section 3 and house 5,715 animal units, 3,500 Holstein milk cows plus support stock, and the Phillips Ranch Dairy Facility on 160 acres, approximately 1 mile to the west in the north half of Section 33, to contain 6,535 animal units, 4,000 Holstein milk cows plus support stock, and this is on a total of 2,692 acres is the total site. This matter includes consideration of the applicant's request for a waiver of the $300 appeal filing fee. In the light of threats of litigation made during the public testimony on this matter and in the press, this matter is scheduled for closed session. Do any of the board members wish to adjourn the closed session at this time to take advice of county council?
Yes.
I would, Mr. Chairman.
You would?
I would.
Okay. We're going to adjourn the closed session. Thank you for your indulgence. We had to clarify a legal matter. I need a motion to continue.
Sorry?
I don't need a motion to continue.
No, sir. There is before your board a request.
Okay.
That is, there is an issue, I'm sorry, first of all, there's an issue involving Supervisor Ennis, and then there is a request from the State Department of Parks.
Right. Okay, before I open the public comment, I would like to bring 2 items to the board's attention. The first item is that Supervisor Ennis will not participate in this vote. During the time of the hearings took place, he was not a member of the Board of Supervisors and has not reviewed all the material in this matter. He will abstain. Second item is a request from Director Ruth Coleman of the State Department of Parks and Recreation. Ms. Coleman requests that this matter be continued to allow the state to negotiate the purchase of the subject property. Ms. Coleman's March 2nd, 2007 letter is before you. Does anyone wish to discuss this request or make a motion to continue this matter?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I just might comment on that issue. In my mind, the critical thing is that the request would need to come from the applicant. Ms. Coleman represents the Parks and Recreation, who is not a party in front of this board. They are simply one of the various agencies that has commented on the CEQA documents, but the appropriate request for a motion to continue would need to come from the applicant, for myself to be convinced that we should do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Coleman's request is denied due to the lack of a supporting motion. Staff, do you have any statements, corrections, additions, or clarifications to make at this time regarding the proposed findings and conditions of approval that you have submitted?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms. Cates. I just wanted to clarify, we do have a Spanish-speaking interpreter present, if anyone needs a Spanish-speaking interpreter. Is there anyone here who needs a Spanish-speaking interpreter? I'm seeing in the back.
There's a whole row.
Ms. Mesa, can you go step toward the back? This is Myrna Mesa. She'll act as an interpreter.
Is there anyone else that needs an interpreter? Okay, thank you. Proceed.
I'm Beverly Cates, the Division Manager for Project Review Division at the Resource Management Agency. At the last meeting of the public hearing for this matter, it was continued for staff to prepare findings and conditions of approval. Staff has submitted a decision for your consideration. It consists of several parts, and I was just going to briefly go through those. It begins with a resolution for adoption, and there is one matter that we would want to add on page 11. This is item 50. The time within which judicial review of this decision must be sought is governed by the provisions of Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. Attached to the resolution are 5 exhibits. Exhibit A displays a project site map and project site plans for the 2 dairy facilities. Exhibit B is a 64-page attachment that goes through the CEQA findings, identifying each of the impacts found in the EIR. Exhibit C is the mitigation measures and mitigation monitoring plan as set forth in this EIR. Exhibit D is the statement of overriding considerations. A statement of overriding considerations is adopted concerning significant and unavoidable impacts of the Etchegaray dairies to support its conclusion that the project's economic, legal, social, technological, and other considerations and benefits override and outweigh the project's significant and unavoidable impacts that cannot be substantially lessened or avoided, even with the adoption of feasible mitigation measures or feasible project alternatives. Mitigation measures are being adopted to address these impacts, but despite these mitigation measures, there are still significant and unavoidable impacts from this project. They've been identified as certain cumulative impacts relating to air quality, ground quality, and biology, certain project-level air quality impacts, a project-level impact relating to disposal of off-site manure, and cumulative level impacts to loss of foraging habitat for predators in the San Joaquin Valley occasioned by dairy facility construction. Then there is section Exhibit E, and that's conditions of approval. And there are 36 conditions that have been recommended for adoption, in addition to the mitigation measures and standard conditions of approval. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just I know the answer, but I wanted to have it stated publicly. This is a part of a process. This applicant still would need, regardless of what happens here today, would still need to go, if it was approved, their project, they would have to go to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District to get a right to construct from that air board, and they would have to be in compliance with all the air quality requirements. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is listed as condition number 35.
In addition, similarly, they'd have to go to the Regional Water Quality Control Board and gain permission from them also to proceed with this project?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. There was extensive public comment on this matter during the evidentiary portion of the public hearing, in fact, hearings. In addition to the proceeding, in addition to the proceedings already had on this matter, the Ralph M. Brown Act provides that any member of the public may comment on any matter before the Board of Supervisors, before the Board on its agenda at any regular meeting of the Board. Due to this process reason, the Board may not consider any new information, testimony, or evidence in this matter through this public comment under the Brown Act at this time. Each interested party will be allowed 3 minutes to comment directly upon the evidence that was presented during the public hearing. The only exception to this limit will be the sole discretion of the chairman. Individuals will not be allowed to yield their time to others. The comments will be timed. As each speaker starts his or her statement, the clerk of the board will start the clock or the timer, and it's on the screen. The amount of time available will count down on the lower right-hand corner of the screen directly above the board seats and visible to the public. At the end of the allotted time, a buzzer will sound, and please finish your statement at that time. If there are any questions, please address all questions to me as the chairman instead of individual supervisors or the county staff, the applicant, or any consultant on this project, or any member of the public. If appropriate, we will ask any responses we believe needed. Okay. I want to emphasize that the decorum and we're sitting. I would appreciate that you would act as you would in a court of law. with decorum to the speakers, and at the discretion of the chairman, please no clapping, no booing, and if things do get out of hand, the chairman does have the right to clear this building, this hearing. So with that, we're going to begin. And we're going to start with Dr. Robert Mason. Oh, please identify yourself and address.
I'm Dr. Robert L. Mason, and I'll mention I'm a PhD, not an MD, so ask me for any medical help. When does my time start? I want to first of all thank you, Mr. Ashita, the members of the board, especially you, Supervisor Conway, who helped to form the Ellsworth Community Council. I am timed. I drove 3 hours to get here, and one nice thing was to see all these beautiful children, because I'm a retired educator, to see these beautiful children, their artwork. Art adds so much to a child's life, so congratulations on the fine work educationally that you're doing. Just the children itself made it worthwhile. So as I start now?
You already started. You have 2 minutes left.
Do I start now or what? Okay. What I'm in August of 2004, I came to Allensworth, California, started working with citizens of Allensworth, the Allensworth Community Council. I am a planner out of the University of Southern California, so I began writing a proposal which is an alternative to these dairies here to establish the first 21st century green community in the United States of America. This project by its very name will conjure up many descriptions because of the word green in it. But now we can say this innovative project will recapture, keep alive, and perpetuate Reverend Colonel Allensworth's legendary vision, mission, and legacy announced in a letter to Booker T. Washington on June 27, 1908. One of the chief purposes of this association, the California Colony and Home Promoting Association, will be to mold public opinion favorable to intellectual and industrial liberty. He said, it is just as easy to start right as it is to start wrong. In 1908, he started right there. And you go to the park, you'll see that he did want to build a modern town surrounded by friendly farmers. During that time, that was modern. What we are proposing in our proposal to the California Financing Coordinating Committee, the I-Bank, which is in here and everything, and submitted to them in 2004, which never really reached them, because I don't think it reached you, Representative Conway, and I don't think it represented our state representative, Nicole Power. So what I'm saying here is that what he envisioned in 1908, the Allensworth Centennial Foundation, which I am one of the proud founders here, we want to present to you an alternate plan to build a modern town now using the modern technology which has changed. See, we have to understand that just as the technology has changed, also the demographics have changed. Colonel Allensworth had that in mind.
Sir, thank you. Jay Holland? Or is it Joy Holland? Joy. Okay.
Either one.
Good afternoon.
Don't need the microphone works.
I present some petitions to the Board of Supervisors, the County Administrator, the County Council for the County of Tulare, California, this day, Tuesday, March the 20th, 2007. And these petitions contained herein were signed by a fraction of the people who support the state of California's plans for the restoration, expansion, tourism, environmental quality of life, and cultural education of the Colonel Allensworth State Historical Park, Allensworth, California. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joy. Michelle. If you have something to submit, you can submit it to the clerk. Thank you. Next, Diane Allen.
My name is Diane Allen. I live in Oakland, California, and I think it is just horrifying that anyone could imagine to put that many cows next door to any one state park. As African Americans, especially in California, we don't have a lot of heritage to take back, to take our children to. And it was hard enough for us to struggle to revive this, for us to work to do the buildings, and now for someone to want to bring cows and pretend like maybe they're not going to stink? I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to remind the speakers to speak to the facts that were presented to us during the public hearings. Charles Allensworth.
Greetings to the board, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak my opinion. My name is Charles Allensworth. I am the great-great-great-nephew of Allen Allensworth, co-founder of Allensworth State Historical Park and the town of Allensworth. I'm not here to protest the dairies being built. I'm here to protest them being built so close in proximity to Allensworth State Park, as well as to the town of Allensworth. My concerns are the air quality, the runoff into the water, and E. coli bacteria. I don't believe that my uncle would have purchased the land that he purchased to develop an all-black town if there was an awareness that a dairy farm or other type of development would have been placed so close in proximity. I'm here representing the Allensworth family name, residents of the town of Allensworth, and African Americans throughout the state of California. This history has been in place since 1908. We can't possibly move this history. The residents are also not able to move because most are of low income and don't have the resources to do so. In addition, this is not just African American history. This is California history, and Allensworth serves as a very significant part of California's history. I feel that building the dairy so close in proximity to Allensworth will impact the number of visitors that will come to visit the park in time. It may not initially impact the number of visitors that travel to the park, but I do believe in time visitors perhaps would not want to return if they were affected by the air quality and the smell, because it will in fact impact the family events and gatherings that occur throughout the year in the town and the state park of Allensworth. I'm really emotional about this issue because, as I say, I bear the Allensworth name. I'm a very proud person to have to be a descendant of a man that was ahead of his time, that was born into slavery and was able to overcome all those obstacles and develop an all-black town that was significantly part of this state's history. Therefore, I am hope that the board will respectfully consider my concerns and do not support the dairies being built so close in proximity. Once again, I'm not here to protest them being built at all. I'm here to protest them being built so closely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Remember, Beverly Blake.
Good morning, board and fellow supporters. Today, there was an article in the London Times regarding the decision that is before you today. I would like to say that the world is judging America by the decision that you make and assessing the values of Tulare County and interpreting that as American values of business over the well-being of its people. Today, your decision will impact generations to come. It is not just a California legacy. It is a national, military, and social legacy. Today, I ask you to choose people over business, social values over dollars. We realize that Tulare County is the dairy county of the United States, and we know the economic and political power that comes with that. Yet, in your obligation to all people, all Californians, we ask you to rise to the occasion today and preserve this legacy, the Allensworth Historical Park, for our posterity and yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Chapman. Sir, that you can use this mic, it's taller. Yeah, you're a tall guy.
Mr. Chairman, to the board, I heard a statement earlier about justice delayed, justice denied. And it took me back to the old cliche about man's inhumanity to man. And I think each one of you sitting here on the board was elected. And I'm sure some of the people here had something to do with that. And I've heard it said when I was here before that this stench wouldn't bother anybody because the wind would take it away. It made it sound like they were going to control this. I've passed through different areas where they had livestock. You could roll your windows up and you would still catch that odor. I'm a teacher of second and third graders. When I first went in there, those kids didn't know a lot about their own history. And this is taking away from the kids down in Oakland. Again, I apologize. I'm Robert E. Chapman, Sr. from Oakland, California. I spoke before. And I see this as being something where it's tremendously failing the people that voted you in. See, it's like, it's an effort, it appears, that's taking away from the public view to one of just this individual that wants to put this dairy there. Yes, the dairy is okay, but I think you should look at where you're putting it. People spoke of people living there that can't just get out, and they have certain diseases and ailments that this dairy situation would cause them more problems. I think that it really should be looked at by the board, and the people should be taken in much consideration. See, we have a country that we fly a democracy flag, but we've really gone to capitalism. We're raising all these issues to get monies for the county, but then these voters have been there forever. I saw something today, whereas I was here last time, I saw a Hispanic family come in stating that they couldn't read good English, and they had a situation where they had to either clean up their properties or they had to have it auctioned off. Well, see, to me, it's like we need to take more consideration about the American people instead of the dollars. When you get to looking at dollars, then we fall on man's inhumanity to man. See, we're thinking more in concerns about how many dollars can we get. We work every day. Those same people work every day. They pay taxes, but then they're not given their rights to choose what they want. I thank you.
Thank you. Nettie Morrison.
Good morning. My name is Nettie Morrison, and I am a resident of Allensworth. I am the spokesperson for the people of my community, and today I stand before you with truly hurt feelings because of some of the things that have been said about us, about our community. I think that it is not doing our community justice when our political leaders down us instead of helping us up. Today, if the dairies are approved, our water sources will be contaminated. We know that because it's not one dairy, it's not two dairies, it's 3 dairies coming into the community. One on 16th has already been approved. And we keep saying our water well is near where the dairies are going to come in. It's like no one is taking these things under consideration. The dairies had to leave, excuse me, the dairies had to leave San Bernardino and that area. Why? If they had to leave one area and they're all coming to another area, why? We know we have very bad air quality. We know that we're bothered with the smog. We know it's a flood zone, but no one is taking consideration not only about the park, but about the people. And I would just like to end by asking a question. Why?
Thank you. Joyce Carlson.
Hello, I am Joyce Carlson. I live in Oakland, California, and I came with a group of 53 people today who are all interested in Allensworth State Park. My daughter found out about Allensworth 10 years ago when her Girl Scout troop came down here on a field trip. And I just want to contrast it with my own history growing up in California in a little white town in Southern California. When I was in 4th and 8th grade, we had to take California history. So we dutifully made sugar cube models of the missions. Mine was La Purisma. And we learned about the Don't Tread on Me flag in early California statehood. And we learned about the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. But somehow in all of that, we didn't learn about the contributions of the many peoples and races and ethnicities that make up the history of California. I didn't find out about all the Armenians, the Portuguese, the Indians, and the Pakistanis who are farmers in the Central Valley and helped contribute to the economic powerhouse it is today. I similarly, when we learned about the importance of the Transcontinental Railroad, I didn't learn about the many Chinese miners who had to blast through the difficult Sierra granite and died in the process because they were cheap labor. Nothing was said in that in my class. And I don't want my children and other children in the state not to have the opportunity to learn about African American history. There's very little of it in California, and unfortunately a lot of it's already been removed by, quote, progress, unquote. And I think it would be a loss to the people of Tulare and all the people of California and all the people of the world who would benefit from visiting a park. I'm a registered civil engineer, and I know in front of my city, the city of Oakland, we have many developers who come in front of the board with controversial projects. They always promise the moon that they're going to mitigate the effects of pollution, traffic, and impacts on the neighbors. And later, it is the city who has to pay the price. You have a mitigation plan, but how much money will you have to spend all the time to enforce that? Your staff will go out, and there'll be fights. It's just like the Chevron oil refineries up in Northern California, in Rodeo. They're always exceeding their limits. And they don't have proper, and they're supposed to have a telephone call so they can tell people when there's flare-ups and explosions at the refineries, and that's never in place. And so you approve it now, they promise the world, but I don't think you can really count on it that the air will not stink when people come to visit the park, and that will turn off those visitors and all the people that they will tell about it. Thank you.
Thank you. No. Eddie Abrams, please.
Good morning. My name is Eddie Abrams. I'm from Oakland, California. October the 24th, when you held your first meeting regarding this situation. I brought a busload of people, and you didn't make a decision. You put it off to December the 5th. And I brought another busload for our concerns of this this not happening. And you put it off to December the 19th. And I brought another busload, showing you the importance of the people who were on those buses and many who didn't come on the buses, knowing the importance of not having a cow dairy even close. Even the idea, to me, is very hurtful and insulting. I served in the United States Army, and I fought believing that the American dream and what we're supposed to do. And when I came out, I went to get a job for civil service, a job, and I couldn't get the job when the white boy just behind me came up and he got a job. This is facts.
Sir, could you...
So, okay, I will get back. I'm just, we're supposed to be Americans. Today, I brought 2 busloads. Would you stand? Today, we brought 2 busloads. And it's not just the number of people we're bringing, it's just trying to share with you the concerns that we have of that part. I'm the past president of the Oakland chapter of Friends of Allensworth, was president in the early 90s. And at that time, we had 13 chapters throughout the state of California. Now we're down to about 5. This cow dairy will not help bringing people to Allensworth at all. So I ask you not to pass this. It's beyond Tulare County. It really is, and I think you recognize that. And it's beyond California. People all over the world are watching your decision today. Please make the right decision, and that decision being to deny this dairy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Carla Service.
Hello, and how are you guys? You didn't have to lower it. I would have went over there. Thank you. My presence was not here the last meeting because I was in Africa. And I want to say, being in Africa, I met several chickens and cows and goats that were running around free and living their lives with their children and playing with the children of Africa. And I assure you, when those chickens and goats were eaten, it was purely because the people were hungry. I befriended some of those chickens, and then I looked for them 3 days later, and they told me, "Kola, manji manji last night." After that, I didn't make any more friends with them because I didn't want to eat them because they're right there. It's not like going to the store and buying your carton of milk or buying your frozen chicken. We do know that here, I say this because bringing to the point of, America, I'm very sad for America right now. But we don't do things basically for hunger and for love. We do things for more money. And it's very sad. And the older I get, the sadder I get. The survival of culture is very important. The survival of Allensworth State Park is very important. Regardless of what your decision is today, we will strive to continue to do what we need to do for its survival. And on that note, what's your decision? I'm ready to know the decision. I go to many meetings and we do this stuff, and you guys already know what your decision is. So can we we can't do that, can we? We have to go through process. All right. I'm done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. George Finley.
Good morning, Supervisor. My name is George Finley. I live in Fresno, California, but I own land in Allensworth. And my first teaching job was in Allensworth in 1954. My heart belongs there. The dairy doesn't belong there. It's a long road for us as African Americans. I've served in the Korean War. I was one of the first to integrate into the 3rd Infantry Division when the war integrated. I want you to understand, I was raised in Alabama, educated in Alabama, and I come to California. I could not get a job until I went to Allensworth as a teacher. History is very important to all of us. That is, if we listen and learn what history is all about. Colonel Allensworth made history because during the time he got land in California, he was not supposed to have land, but he got it some kind of a way. We need to understand that as all of us here need to know the history of what the blacks contributes to the making of California. If we deny them that by putting those dairies that close to the park, our history is going to be lost. My tax dollars being here and paid in Tulare County, I want to know where it's going. Why can't we save that park by not allowing those dairies that close? Put them somewhere else. You and I know, as farmers, I don't know how many of you farmers sitting on this board, but you know that stench is going to be there if you put a dairy close by anywhere. You can't control the air. You can't control where the water goes. And you and I know that when it goes back into the ground, it has to come back out again. And that what goes into the ground isn't good water. And it's in a flood zone. What happens when the flood comes? Where does that water go from the dairies? Right into the town of Allensworth, into the park. Take a look at what you're doing today and save what the colonel wanted to save. He founded that town because we were not able to do the things we wanted to do, because you wouldn't allow us as blacks to do it. Right here in Visalia, blacks could not go to school with whites. This history, please save it. Make it comfortable for my grandkids and other grandkids. Take a vote, but make it the right vote. Thank you.
Thank you. R.W. Muntner. R.W. It looks like Muntner to me. It's R.W. Okay, we'll pass that one for now. Brad Torgan.
Thank you, Chairman Ishida, members of the board. My name is Brad Torgan. I'm General Counsel for the State Department of Parks and Recreation. And on behalf of the department, I would again like to respectfully reiterate our request that you delay taking final action on the Etchegaray Dairies project until our land acquisition efforts have run their course. Our sole purpose in asking for the delay has always been to avoid costly litigation. Contrary to what may have been implied in statements made by others outside the department, we have always believed that your actions last December were sufficient enough for an appraiser to establish value as if the project had received final approval and the special use permit issued. Our intent has always been to see fair market value determined as if those actions had been taken. Final action at this time, however, will likely trigger lawsuits from a variety of interested parties who have voiced concerns about the adequacy of the EIR. This legal cloud creates uncertainty for the project that could affect the appraisal in a negative way. We had hoped for sufficient time to see if the parties can come to a mutually agreed price for the acquisition of land and or easements that would render litigation unnecessary. In the interest of saving everyone the time and the cost of litigation and hopefully coming to a solution that satisfies everybody, we request you continue this item until we conclude our negotiations with the landowner. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa De Anza?
Good morning, and I appreciate having the time to speak to you. I come to these meetings kind of disheartened because I have to come and kind of, I don't want to say the word beg, but I don't want to say the word plead, but we're asking earnestly for you to postpone this decision. As he said, there is a lot of litigation pending when or if it is approved. I live in Early Mart. I'm from Tulare County. I was raised there. I want to speak to Early Mart first. I have 7 kids. I have 5 grandkids. I think putting these dairies there will be, instead of progress, it'll be regress. It'll create bad roads, more potholes on Avenue 56, and then on 43. And then it'll create health costs, and then it's bad for the air quality. I think it's a big regress instead of progress, and the economic costs of all of those things I just said will outweigh the benefits of the economic gain. And then now I want to speak to Allensworth. A couple years ago, Sandra Mraz, Linda McKay, and myself did a training there for there was about 150 students there. We were in the classroom of Colonel Allensworth Park, and these students came from the LA area, and they came to learn about, we talked about pesticides, we talked about water, we talked about the park, and and so I think it's a very valuable park, and I think you really need to weigh this out. It's going to create regress, not progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Gabriel.
Good morning. My name is Tim Grabiel. I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council. We have over 650,000 members nationwide, over 250,000 who reside in California. I'm going to be short because I find the other commentators so much more compelling than I probably will be. But the bottom line is to approve the Etchegarry permit is to violate state law. A number of organizations and commentators have reviewed the final EIR and addendum and found it wanting. It improperly characterizes the environmental setting. It fails to analyze significant environmental effects. It fails to require feasible mitigation measures, a number of which are outlined in our 2 comment letters. And it fails to consider a reasonable range of alternatives. But most egregiously, it dismisses wholesale the impacts to Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park and Allensworth Ecological Reserve. In short, the EIR is inadequate, and Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park and the Ecological Reserve deserve more. In fact, these concerns are shared by sister agencies, by responsible agencies under CEQA, including state parks, Fish and Wildlife Services, and Fish and Game. We believe that the African American Monument and park visitors will, if this permit is approved, will be denied full and equal access to the benefits of environmental review. And these permits cannot lawfully be approved until such environmental review is had. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Howard.
Good morning. I wasn't here for the prior meetings. I don't know the issues. I'm not that clear on what they were. I don't know what the interrogatories were, what the responses were, or what's going on with it. But I want to just be very brief. I think that from what I've seen today from the board, with the youngsters and with the environment that I've encountered today, I think that we're capable of making prudent decisions, and I trust that. I believe that. Just in case that's absent, I think that the community should just relax, be calm, and just remember, silence is golden. Don't worry about a thing. Just take care and relax. Everything's going to be fine. The board's going to do what it's supposed to do, and everything's going to be great.
Thank you. Okay, I have a Calvin. Can't read the last name here. Calvin?
Is there a last name?
Yeah, is it Young?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had a guess.
How you doing, supervisors and Mr. Chairman? This is very appropriate for me to speak to you. You wanted to liken this proceedings to a court. You said the demeanor should be as of a court. I respectfully request that you add kangaroo to that. Kangaroo, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Buddy James.
Good morning. My name is Buddy Jones, and I'm a local.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm from Visalia. Historically speaking, one of the pictures you have to look at, which is you wanted facts, is that historically speaking, Allensworth has always had a water problem. In fact, they've never been able to develop it because of lack of water. It's a very strange picture to see how we got enough water for 6,000 cows and not enough for 300 people. That's an interesting picture. We've mentioned Colonel Allensworth a number of times today. There's more to this picture. Sequoia National Park is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. The main reason that park was reserved was because of a Buffalo soldier called Charles Young. He took the first black troop of African Americans up to help establish that park. And a large portion of the credit for that park goes to Charles Young. I'm a local contractor. Over the years, I've completed over $13 million of projects in the national parks, most of it here in Sequoia Park. And my view of history, and you have to understand, if you violate your history, you're going to relive it again. And my view is that we made an attempt to bury Allensworth, but there's some people who salvaged it. People that are just now getting to know that Charles Young, an African American, helped establish Sequoia Park. The members of this county don't know they had a local African American resident who completed work in the park and received awards for that work. And as the person who did that work, I can see that my history is going to be buried also. So I'm saying to you, as members of this county, consider the whole picture of the value and the contributions that African Americans have made in this county, and consider Allensworth one of the spots that we must preserve. Thank you.
Larry Dotson, Reverend Larry Dotson.
Whichever one you want.
It's still good we live in a society where you still have choice. I'm Larry Dodson. I pastor a church in Tulare, California, one of the most diverse ethnic churches in this county. I'm here because I was in the Bay Area several weeks ago, and through a meeting through the RCA Church, which is the Reformed Church of America, I was informed about this meeting. and the people who were coming, and I see they are here. I say that to expose the fact that a lot of the dialogue that has taken place has somewhat been interpreted in our community as a bunch of outsiders coming in. I'm here, as well as Mr. Jones, who just left, to let you know this issue is not an outside thing. I just thank God that people outside of our county are healed and educated and available and committed enough to make this journey here to represent this issue. I want to apologize for the lack of representation of local folks, because in the African American community in Tulare County, we have a multitude of serious social and mental problems. And one of the most serious problems that we have is PTSS, it's post-traumatic slave syndrome. See, black folks know about that. And we've been trying to address that here locally, but we've had some problem because of the syndrome. So today I stand here to say, as a local, we support you to make the right decision. In looking at this board composition, this is not the same board of supervisors that was welcoming and approving the foundation of this park back in 1970 and 71. I happen to have been fresh out of high school, and one of the local African-American Republicans, Cecil W. Berkeley, advocated strongly to then-President Governor Ronald Reagan, and with the collaboration and support of Mr. Ed Pope and the Sacramento city there, this became a reality. And at that time, it was revealed to us locals as something that we could look forward toward in identifying our heritage and benefiting from the accomplishments and successes of great people like Colonel Allensworth. And over the years as a local, we've lost a lot of luster about that, because we've seen nothing but bureaucratic delays and every excuse in the world for funds not to come to happen to develop it. And many local people have lost hope in the park being developed. However, in the past 10 years, we've seen a great increase of support. We've seen a much increase of people developing these clusters around the state. And all I want to say to you is, if you don't think that we who are here locally are concerned about that park, just because the papers haven't talked about it, that have engaged us in any dialogue about it, we care, we want you to support this park and not pass that permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Serpa.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. Thank you.
Micah, Serpa.
Good morning.
Pull your mic up.
Better?
Yep.
Good morning. My name is Larry Serpa. I'm here this morning representing CARES, a coalition of dairy industry organizations dedicated to environmental stewardship and environmental sustainability. I serve as Vice President of CARES and have been a member of CARES board for nearly 5 years. Throughout our existence, CARES has supported your board's efforts to ensure that Tulare County dairies meet the highest standards. We will continue to do that. Because we support strong science and good environmental stewardship, we are here today to support the approval of this project. This project has been in the works for nearly 8 years and has undergone thorough environmental review. The EIR, nearly 40 pages of mitigation measures. The dairy facility itself will be almost 2 miles from the historic park. Once built, it will operate under Tulare County's dairy inspection program, the most thorough in the state. It will also be closely regulated by the San Joaquin Air District and the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board. We certainly respect the rights of our fellow citizens to voice their opinions on this project, even those who do not live or work in the Tulare County. We are sorry that this project has become a point of controversy, but we do not believe the solution to this disagreement is to deny the land use as a dairy, particularly given the great amount of time and resources that have been invested to make this project meet all the county requirements. We do believe that operating the dairy in an environmentally responsible way will do honor to our county and the dairy industry families who have lived here for generations. The dairy will help our industry continue to benefit all the people in our county from all walks of life. We hope this issue can be resolved in a manner that respects the rights of all involved. The first step toward this resolution is to certify the EIR so the project proponents know where they stand and whether they have met their requirements. We believe they have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last slip I have for public comments today. Pardon? Your name, please? Well, please come forward because I don't have it here.
That sounds like the one that you missed.
Oh, the one I
It does.
couldn't find?
Yeah, Rev RV, yeah. Sounds like the one you missed.
I'm sorry.
Number 12.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Well, I just heard about Allensworth, and I'm really surprised because I worked for the city of Visalia for many years when Ted Gabler was the city manager there. So I was coming down once a week for maybe 2 or 3 years and never even heard of Allensworth. And I'm very happy to hear that there is a state park that was started by a black man, and I'm likening it to a Grand Canyon or Yosemite, and we wouldn't put that many cows next to those places. So in my mind, it's like a Grand Canyon or a Yosemite. I want to appeal to you, those of you that do have grandchildren, who do take your grandchildren on vacation, because I'm going to be bringing my children here because it's a worthy place. I know that the city of Visalia and this county has done the right thing when it comes to helping immigrants find a home and feel accepted, because I was a part of that work. So I'm appealing to you as a part of history, because black history is world history. And I want to apologize for any way that you've been offended by anything that's been said, because it's been coming out of the pain of not being recognized. I'm from the Church of Religious Science in Oakland, and we believe that there is only one life, and that we're all a part of it, that each and every one of us has come for a purpose, and that purpose is to fulfill the divine plan that we can have harmony and live in peace together. There's an old African proverb, and it goes like this, that everything that we do affects 7 generations. And so 7 generations ago, something happened. Allensworth lost its footing. But you can make it the decision, or at least be a part of the history going forward, where the whole world is needing something to show solidarity as Americans together, not as black against white, not as poor against the rich. So I'm just trying to appeal to your sixth sense, to your heart, and speak on behalf of the people who haven't been there yet. We need an historical place that represents the strength of black people, African American people, but this is not just black history, it's world history. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring this issue back to the board. Comments?
Chairman, I just might speak. I appreciate the people who have made this trek to our chambers a number of times, and I hear people requesting continuances. I also hear people saying that it's time to make a decision, and I believe it is time to make a decision. And I'd like to make a few comments. I'm sure my other members would like to make comments as well. First off is the idea that somehow this board does not appreciate the state park of Allensworth being in Tulare County, and I want to be of record of saying that I do appreciate having a historic place in our county. I grew up in this county. In fact, my children are the 6th generation to live here in this county. And I have to confess that growing up, I did not know about Allensworth either. And that, again, is some of the deficiencies, perhaps, of our history taught not only perhaps on a statewide basis, but locally. I say that, and I want people to understand that in my own mind, if I thought for one moment that the proposed projects would be injurious to this state park, I would be the first person to move to deny the EIR approval today. I do not believe that to be the case. I live within 1 mile of 2 dairies currently. These are older dairies. The older dairies are the ones who are even have greater problems, environmental problems, than the new dairies that are larger. And because they have been there for a number of years, they're flat, they're not contoured, they're not covered. But a modern dairy is something very different from dairies of my childhood. I mentioned before, for those who weren't here, I grew up on a dairy that had 16 cows. And we laugh about that now, but if you look at the pictures of Allensworth, that one of the structures that has been reconstructed is the dairy barn. The dairy barn that, according to the information we have, there were 300 cows in the community of Allensworth, right in the community, not on the outskirts of it, but right in the community. That is part of the history of Allensworth. Comments were made this morning. Again, the purpose of this hearing really was to talk about the findings. I was reminded by one of the members of the press that as I was interviewed at one of our previous meetings, and I spoke, a lady came up to me afterwards. She says, "You're just all about the facts, aren't you? Just about the facts." And I have to say that I am about the facts. The facts are controlling, and I think the concern that people have to be based upon facts. If they're not based upon facts, then we have no rule of law in this country. We have no basis for making decisions. I believe that this state park is a significant part of our California history. And again, I would never want to do anything that would be injurious to that. I am sensitive to the idea that our decisions today do make an impact on many generations down the road. That includes the need for us to continue to move forward. And I believe that Colonel Allensworth envisioned a living and breathing community, not just a ghost town. He really envisioned a Tuscany of the West, a place that people would live and work and raise their families. And he would be saddened, I think, to see that the park is a park and not actually a living and vibrant community. And I realize there's an Allensworth community to the south, but I'm talking about where the park structure is today. So those are my comments, and I'll let my other board members speak, but I do think that today is the day to make a decision, move forward.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just a few brief comments. I remember back in the 70s when I was a teenager, I actually went out to the park before it was a park and donated some time out there working on one of the buildings, installing a evaporative cooler, enjoyed to stay out there, had a nice tour of the park, and have been there a few times since. So I respect and I agree with Supervisor Wood that we do have a great asset in our community, and that is the state park there. Although I do not agree that we need to. I'll take that back. What we're here to do today is to look at the EIR and the comments on the EIR. Out of the 20 people that spoke, we had 3 people actually speak to the validity of the EIR and to those issues. And as I look at the EIR and to the mitigation measures, I feel that there are significant and enough mitigation measures there to support the applicant and to not deny him his right to use his property as he sees fit. I do not believe it will be a negative impact on the park. Beverly Blake said, "Today your decision will impact generations to come." I believe that. That's why I chose to sit here. That's why I chose to run for office, because I believe the decisions we make as a board do impact generations to come. And we understand that. That's why we're here. So it will be my position then to support the landowner and to approve the EIR with its mitigation measures and to move forward in that direction. And tonight, want to see this matter delayed any further. So I'd like to see a decision made today as well.
Supervisor Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that everyone agrees that's here today, and even those that aren't here today, that history is important, that culture is important, and that certainly the park is important. I think the locals know my and my family's commitment to the park. I don't need to get into that. Those that live here know that. I cannot belay the fears of those that have spoken here today, and those that have written, and those that have sent information. I'm only one person, and for me to tell them that it's going to be all right, whichever gentleman gave that testimony, it's going to be okay. Let it be what it's going to be. If I tried to belay those fears, I don't know that anyone wants to hear that from me. But I also know that this board has a decision to make, and then there will be several decisions that follow after that. I have looked at the information because of my family's experience, because of my personal experience. I don't believe that with the mitigation measures and the distance from the park, that the dairies will have the same impact as those that others believe that it will. I am not trying to deny others' feelings or how they feel, and I can appreciate that. We've just come to different conclusions at this point. There is still ongoing negotiations. Whatever we do today, the process will continue. I guess, Mr. Chairman, sometimes decisions are difficult. Today, this board has a difficult decision to make, but I believe that we will make it in good faith and then move forward with the process.
Thank you. It is a difficult decision to make, especially when you talk about personal property rights and due process. To get a permit in this county takes a long period of time, and it's a very long road and a lot of hoops to jump through. And this process has taken almost 8 years. It's not something that we take lightly in Tulare County. The applicant has invested a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of dreams in the ability to go forward with these dairies. But because he's considerate of the historical nature of Allensworth, he is currently in negotiations with the state of California about going forward with his 2 dairies. That process is between the state of California, or whatever trust he's working with. That process is between those 2 individuals. We are not part of that process. We are part of the process of making sure that everyone does get their due process. And that's the only statement I have to make on this subject.
Mr. Chair, if I may then, moving to the first page of our staff report, I would make the following motion that we approve all 5 requests. Number 1, approve the waiver of the $300 appeal filing fee, as there was no decision made by the Planning Commission. Second, to certify the environmental impact report for the project as being in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. 3, adopt a mitigation monitoring plan and a statement of overriding considerations. 4, adopt findings and approve special use permit PSP 96-072 subject to conditions. And 5, direct the clerk of the Board of Supervisors to return the notice of termination to the Resource Management Agency for future filing with the county clerk.
Second.
There's been a motion and seconded. Please cast your ballot.
Sure to announce it.
Pardon?
Sure to announce it.
Okay. Vote is 4 in favor of accepting the EIR and 1 abstention from Supervisor Ennis, as mentioned previously. I'd like to thank you for your patience and your time and your consideration in hearing this matter.
You might want to give a little time to clear out. You might want to advise them that there's still stuff.
We still have some business to conduct, and if there are interviews, if you would please do them outside the chambers. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Glad you clarified.
Michelle.
No, I'm fine. Thank you, though.
Never mentioned it.
We made all those fire people sit in the back for this whole thing for, all those fire people sat in the back for this whole thing.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't even see them there.
Okay, we have item 23. It's an informational item. 23. So, they're all informational items.
No, not
No,
we
not
have
23.
23 is the designation of the fire station.
Oh.
That's an action item.
Okay.
Item. 23?
Let's go ahead.
Looks like action to me.
Yeah. Maybe I ought to keep you for a while because it's going to be empty if you guys leave.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors, Mr. Haddad. My name is Dana Weil, and I'm with the County Administrative Office. These fine people behind me are representatives from various city fire stations, and I do want to commend them on their patience. We come before you today regarding the Safe Baby Surrender Program. A law regarding this program was made permanent beginning July 1st, 2006 by our governor. The law states that a parent or person with lawful custody can safely surrender a baby up to 72 hours confidentially and without fear of prosecution to any employee on duty in a hospital emergency room or other location designated by a county board of supervisors. On December 19, 2006, the Tulare County Fire Department requested your board to designate 17 of their fire stations as safe baby surrender sites. In order to increase the number of receiving locations countywide, each city was also asked to participate in this very important program. So unless there are any questions, which I would be happy to receive, we respectfully ask your board to designate as safe baby surrender locations all current fire stations in the city of Visalia, Tulare, Porterville, Exeter, Woodlake, and Dinuba. Lindsay and Farmersville are very interested in this very important program, but due to changes in their organization cannot participate at this time. Designating the city fire stations as safe baby surrender sites will increase the number of receiving locations from 20 to 33 countywide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions?
Mr. Chair, I'm glad to see, if I may, I'm glad to see so many here in support, and I didn't see you sitting there in mass and uniform behind, but I'm glad to see so many here in support of this, and to know that we're adding so many stations to what I think is a very important piece of the puzzle, because way too many babies are discarded. So I think this is great to see this kind of support from all the cities in our county, and would motion to approve.
I would second that motion with the caveat that I'd just like to say that I appreciate all of you being here this morning and the commitment that you're making. I think it makes life so much simpler when we do things on a county-wide basis, so that, God willing, there won't be people that need this particular service, but we know that there might be, and this will take away any confusion or any doubt in anyone's mind. They'll know that any fire station is a safe haven, and so I'm very appreciative for you all being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We need a motion.
Did we already have it?
We have a second. Please cast your ballot. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
for waiting. Hey, Alan, don't let them do that. Don't let them do that.
Could you come back? Moving item 24 is information only. These were the results of bid opening for Reservation Road Safety Improvement Project.
Can I ask a question? Do we have someone here that I can ask a quick question of? Just, I know we're 20% lower than the next bidder. The lowest bid is 20% lower than the next, but actually about 40% lower than the engineer's estimate. Have we worked with this low bidder before and confident that it's going to come in like this without change orders?
Is he going to use oil?
Brett Fussell, Assistant Director with the Tulare County Resource Management Agency, and yes, I was kind of surprised, I guess, when I saw these numbers and the difference between the low bidder and the estimate and the second low bidder. I've actually had a conversation with the low bidder, and he hasn't made any comment relative to having problems with delivering this project for the bid that he submitted. One of the, I think, aspects of why he's able to do this is his yard, his plant, if you will, is right at the entrance to Reservation Road. They're on Highway 190. So he's very conveniently located to the project and is probably able to do it for this price due to reduction in mobilization costs. We do plan to be back before your board next Tuesday with a request that you award a contract to Mr. Mitch Brown to deliver this project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, he is at the beginning of the Reservation Road. Thank you, Brett.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, you do now. Public comments. Paul?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Paul Saldana with the Tulare County Economic Development Corporation, 4500 La Spina Road in Tulare, California. I'm here on behalf of the EDC, the Visalia, Tulare, and Porterville Chambers of Commerce, the Home Builders Association of Tulare and Kings County, and the Tulare County Farm Bureau, my colleagues who are with me here this morning. We're here today to voice our opposition to AB 576. This coalition represents more than 56,000 businesses and employees in the region of Tulare County. We are not here today to discuss or dispute the Echeverry project, but rather we're here to address the possible catastrophic effects that AB 576 poses as it relates to local land use issues. Clearly, 576 is bad policy for private landowners, businesses as a whole, and has the potential to negatively impact the economy for the entire state of California. This coalition, as we stand united today, opposes 576. As we said, this policy has the potential to extend far beyond the protection of Allensworth State Park as it was introduced, and sets a dangerous precedent for relating to the loss of local land use control and other issues that the County Board of Supervisors has under their jurisdiction. We feel that additionally, this bill presupposes that animal feeding operation presents a danger to public health and safety, and that such operation constitutes a nuisance. If that were true, then we would have to ban everyone from residing in the Central Valley. What's next for this type of legislation? Would citizens be forced to voice our concerns in Sacramento instead of coming before you like many did this morning and voicing their concerns about a project? Again, we feel that these types of decisions, local land use decisions, should be based here locally in these types of chambers, not just here in Tulare County, but throughout California. We look forward to working with your board, since at least at this point this bill predominantly impacts Tulare and Kings County. We look forward to working with your board and others in the community to see that this legislation is defeated. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Still morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bob Keenan here today representing the Business Industry and Government Coalition of the South San Joaquin Valley, and I am their coordinator. And besides these people behind us, or behind me, this coalition consists of 5 counties, 24 cities, 4 farm bureaus, 3 building associations, 7 chambers of commerce, 5 economic development corporations, 2 community colleges. There's 50 of us. Mr. Chairman, member of the Board of Supervisors, this nation was born out of the rejection of being governed from a centralized system that was far away and disconnected, opposition to being governed by a whim or decree. The people demanded that those in control of their lives and their fortunes be close to where they lived, worked, and worshiped. They wanted those in government to be local, make decisions locally, and maintain their positions as elected officials based on the acceptance and outcomes of those decisions. This nation and its levels of government are based on this principle, that local government governs best. Local control of local issues, problems, and solutions is the very background of our total governmental structure. Our concern is not the specific project or proposal addressed in AB 576, but the fact that this bill attempts to take an issue out of local control, an issue of property rights and land use. We object to the state interfering in local land use decision-making on such limited and singular project scale. We have serious concerns that this type of state interloping will open the doors to other caucuses, groups, businesses, losers in a dispute before any governmental body, competitors, organizations, social movements, to use Sacramento as their government of choice for local planning, zoning, general planning, and appeals of local governmental decisions on a case-by-case basis. Land use planning and governance are the underpinnings of our democratic republic. Decision makers elected locally are held responsible to and by their electorate. Therefore, the big coalition goes on record here stating our total and strong opposition to AB 576 and any legislation like it that is intended to remove, usurp, discount, or negate local control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment?
Thank you. Good morning again. We've had a lot going on here today that reflects agriculture in this county, and I want to thank my colleagues for being here today. Farm Bureau does support the purpose and mission of the big coalition, and Paul Sadania, who spoke on behalf of all the organizations represented on our press release and handouts that will go before you here. I thought it was prudent at this time and germane to also weigh in on this matter on behalf of the agriculture community. I believe that perhaps this may be agendized next week or in a week to come, and I will not be able to attend, and I thought it was prudent, since my president and some of my board members were here this morning, to have this read into the record as well. On behalf of Tulare County Farm Bureau, which also represents about 2,200 farm and ranch members and families here in the county of Tulare, on record as 737 North Bid Maddox Way in Visalia, Patricia Stever is their executive director, would like to also voice our strong opposition to Assembly Bill 576, a bill that is designed to restrict private property owners' rights to use their land in a way that is compatible and appropriate with local land use policies. The Farm Bureau is joined by a broad coalition of business, industry, community, and we believe government that opposes this bill already. 576 sets a very frightening precedent, usurping local land use and decision-making by our local elected officials, and relinquishing this responsibility to state lawmakers. We respect that the measure is well-intended, and in light of the many comments we heard earlier here today, we believe it is simply bad public policy. This type of legislation takes control away from you as our elected local officials and places that control in Sacramento. Tulare County is the second largest agriculture producing county, not only here in the state, but truly in the world. And the loss of vital agriculture land through legislation like this has a tremendous impact on our county's workforce. 2 out of every 3 jobs in this county are related to agriculture, and enacting legislation that would greatly harm operations such as animal feeding businesses through poor land use planning would be devastating. It has been mentioned that with a ban around the park in question, more than 60,000 acres of land could be affected and taken out of production with this type of legislation. There's an enormous economic impact not only to our dairies in this county, but to the residents that rely upon those dairies for their employment, a stable employment available to them year-round. More than 22,500 residents of this county work in the dairy industry alone here. 576 sets a dangerous precedent by prohibiting animal feeding operations like a dairy to conduct business here in this county. I truly believe you have taken the due diligence and have taken great care to balance the deep cultural value of this state park with the rights of landowners in this county. In this instance, I respect that the mitigation measures will be met to ensure not only the park's special stature, but also the health and well-being of community residents. Tulare County Farm Bureau strongly urges your continued opposition to this legislation and allow the legal process of land use planning to remain in the hands of local government. We have great confidence in you as our elected local officials to balance the needs of our citizens with the needs for development and business in this county. 576 assaults this long-standing process, negates local control, and leaves the fate of our valley in the hands of lawmakers hundreds of miles away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I might just comment, I very much appreciate these statements of support from our local people, and of course I think we all recognize this as being a state initiative. Doesn't begin and end in Tulare County. Obviously we need the support of economic development throughout California, farm bureaus throughout California, chambers of commerce throughout California. This is something which affects us directly, but has the potential, obviously, to affect every county in the state. And so we hope you will also assist us in that efforts to make sure that we enlist the support of a very broad range of people to battle this bill, because it is truly very poor policy. When Member Conway and myself were in Sacramento sometime back. Your name is Connie, isn't it?
My friends call me Conway.
We had a chance to meet with the author of this bill, and Assemblywoman Carter. When I mentioned to her that depending on how you draw this boundary, it could be anywhere between 50 and 70,000 acres affected, her response to me was, really? Because earlier than that she had said, we only want 5 miles. And when you do the math on that, it's a lot of acres. And I don't think people really appreciate what an impact that is. That is just huge. So the precedent is there. If it applies to a park, does it apply to Fish and Game Commission lands? Does it apply to the state-owned properties that are in the foothills? It also makes you wonder, do you want any more acres of land to belong to the public? Because if they're going to try to say, well, we need this acre, but then we need to have 10,000 acres around it to protect the acre, it's a very frightening situation. So we need to battle it, I think, full speed ahead. Thank you.
Well, with that, you want to comment on?
Oh, just to, I appreciate all of you being here and the support that this issues. It's an interesting piece of legislation, not just for it's not even eminent domain, it's a taking with no repayment of any kind. And so, and then also the statements in there, I'm not sure why the legislators in Sacramento feel that they are able to declare an industry as a public nuisance, and that anyone would pay attention to that even if they did. But this bill, I believe, set back the cause of some of those folks that were here this morning and what they wanted us to do, because it is exactly this piece of legislation as an urgency measure that kept some parties involved from being able to take a wait-and-see position on the project that was before us. So it's too bad the other folks weren't here to hear that this bill actually does more harm to what they're trying to achieve around the park than it does to help it. That being said, just as the other was a stated cause for concern throughout the country, I have heard from more than one legislator that they believe this bill will be of concern to those that care about property rights in California. That's all. Thank
Let's
you.
go into board matters. Want to continue?
Just briefly to tell you, I was in Sacramento all day for a Safe Communities Conference yesterday, and basically what the Safe Communities Conference was pertaining to was placement of sex
This
offenders.
is important stuff, people.
I don't blame them.
Is it lunch or what?
I don't know. It's the placement of sex offenders and sexually violent predators that in communities, and I learned a lot. We will be having further dialogue with cities about this and how this happens. Obviously, counties don't want to be a quote-unquote dumping ground for this, but it's turning out to be that way. This was an attempt. This was sponsored by the governor, Assembly Member. I can't even say his name now, and I sat next to him all day. Strickland. And California State Association of Counties, the League of California Cities, a joint effort to have conversation to look at the entirety of how these placements happen and to make sure that we're aware that it's happening. And as I say, I learned a lot. I can share with you later some of the intricacies of that. No matter what rules are in place now, there's folks that have been in jail for a long time and they're coming out, and there's very little control on where they are and how we monitor them. So it will encompass a bigger conversation. Group homes kept coming up, how we cite all kinds of these types of facilities, not group homes for sex offenders, group homes for developmentally disabled, whatever at all, foster children, whatever it is. And so I think that's all going to come under the radar. I mean, get out from under the radar and get in front of folks to make a decision. And that's enough for me. Thank you.
Supervisor Cox.
Well, a few weeks ago, Supervisor Sheeta, the chair, gave me a task to go out in the community and work on gang activities and to educate myself and to try to create a coalition that would work on the gang problem we're having here in Tulare County. And we do have a very severe gang problem here in Tulare County, despite what anyone says. I've had interviews with the Sheriff's Department, done ride-alongs with them, with the District Attorney. I have an appointment with the probation, met with our HHSA folks, and been educated myself. We actually have made contact with all of the other counties throughout the state, asking what their activities are as far as gang suppression, intervention, and so forth is, and have received quite a good response back. There are actually counties that have strategic plans that address the gang issue, and we're looking at the model they've used to build a task force similar to that in Tulare County. I've talked to a few of the police chiefs as well who are very interested in working together and doing a county effort. And also we have some cities such as yours, Supervisor Worley, that is close to Fresno County that has expressed interest in working with Fresno County. Porterville is already working with Kern County. So there's an effort underway to address the gang problem that we have, And I'm finding that, our gang problems start in about the 3rd or 4th grade in our county. And by the time you hit high school, it's almost too late. So we need to look at how we're addressing our gang intervention here in the county, look at our resources, look at redirecting some of our resources to help out with the gang issues here. I also talked with transportation. The city of Visalia has a task force. The city of Visalia kicked in $100,000 to address gang problems in Visalia. The task force came up with a bus route that would start this summer and would travel throughout the city doing a 30-minute loop that would go to all the community centers, the schools, trying to get kids off of playgrounds, out of parking lots, and get them into the community centers to where they can be worked with almost on a one-on-one basis. Sheriff Whitman asked me to work with the county. I've already contacted Mr. Fox on our side about providing a bus loop that would go from Ivanhoe to Visalia to Goshen to Visalia to Ivanhoe, that would also provide a 30-minute loop that would tie those kids that attend our schools in Visalia into that same system. So it would be a 30-minute loop that would bring kids in, give them some place to go. It would run 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day, and then after the school year starts again, it would be an after-school bus route. So this looks to be a good effort. Visalia's kicked in $100,000.
We have Measure R money for that?
That's the money I asked Dan Fox to look at before he spent it on expanding our services. This is a one-year pilot. It's just a one-year program to see if it'll work. Very exciting, very proactive, very out in front of what others are doing. So very excited about that, and I want to thank the chair, even though I've been given more information than I ever wanted to know about gangs in my entire life. And some of the gangs we have moving into the area is quite disturbing. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the assignment. We have our first meeting
I've got more
here.
for you, Mr. Cox.
We got our first meeting here Thursday morning at 8 a.m. with some invited individuals.
Thank you very much for the time you're spending on this.
Chairman, just since our last meeting, we didn't meet last Tuesday, we had an air board meeting last Thursday in Fresno. We did receive and file the proposed 8-hour ozone plan. This is going to have a major impact throughout the valley. And so I invite you all to stay tuned, because the public hearing portion of that will be coming up later this summer. But part of the plan is to try to gain funding to use incentives, because the Air Board's jurisdiction is limited to stationary sources, and we have done a very good job of regulating our stationary sources, but our vast majority of problems for ozone are from mobile sources over which we do not have control. Therein lies a problem, but also an opportunity. And the opportunity is to use incentive funding to be able to encourage people to move on and replace their old forklifts, their old trucks, their old cars with more modern equipment and vehicles, all of which are many, many, many more times clean burning. And so it is going to be an overall huge effort to try to come into attainment. And part of the issue here is how, if we're seeking to have ourselves designated with a higher designation, which sounds like our air quality has gotten worse. It hasn't gotten worse. It's just to give us more time to fix it, because this problem, our executive director says, we have to be the cleanest people in the world to come into conformity with the air quality standards here because of the unique nature of our valley. Our temperature, our air currents, surrounded by mountains, makes this the poster child for how to create poor air quality. And so it has to be it's going to be very, very difficult for us to achieve this goal. But I want to be optimistic about it, because we have made great progress, and we will continue to make progress. Every time our fleet gets turned over, we have cleaner burning cars, cleaner burning trucks, and that's where the solution is going to be made. So it's an interesting time in many ways.
Thank you.
No comments.
Because of a mental lapse that I had, I think there might have been some additional comments from from the public. Donnie, did you have something to say, you wanted to say? Or staff?
I think Donnie was here to respond in the event that somebody had a question regarding freeze relief.
Okay.
Is that correct, Donnie?
That's correct.
Okay. Well,
And
then
of course, to hear your wonderful board comment. And I also want to just applaud you for the Safe Baby Haven sites. Those are so critical to you, to us, and so I appreciate that effort, so I was glad to hear that.
Well, I have a report. First of all, I'd like to comment on the meeting we just are about to conclude. You know, thank goodness for baby boomers. All of those people on that bus, almost all of them were baby boomers. And we're almost 60 years old now, so we're kind of settled down in our ways and become more civilized because of age. That's just a personal observation of what I have about age. As many of you know, I spent the week in Washington, D.C. With TCAG, lobbying for roads. I think we were successful in the fact that we were able to present our story in a very short period of time. We had good illustrations because of the other trips that all of us have been making to Washington, D.C., that they know Tulare County, they know who we are, they know that when we ask for things, we're ready to perform. We're not asking for things that will be shelved for 10 years. It was amazing to me to find out that we have some highway projects that have been earmarked from the late 70s that still haven't been built. So there are things that the federal government are looking at those type projects and saying, no, you bring us things that are ready to go. And we are, as a county, not only on roads with TCAG, but in our other departments, we've been innovative and we have their attention. So I commend all our departments for being innovative and ready to take their to have their project ready when we request a lot of this money. I also had a chance to have dinner with. I had dinner with George was talking. By accident, I got invited to a dinner with President George Bush, who was probably as close as Teresa is from the table we had. That was quite a pleasure. The press did get it wrong. I was a guest, not a participant.
And what was the difference?
And the difference was $5,000. So I want to make that clear on this air that the press had.
Good. I was going to ask for your public disclosure of your records.
On this freeze relief, what's happened is the President has declared the relief, and he declared it while I was there in D.C. last week. He did not include all the requests from the governor or from the affected counties. The House and the Senate has plans to amend or expand the programs beyond what the President had declared. The issue we have is in the House of Representatives. The freeze relief package is a trailer bill to funding the Iraqi war. And because that trailer bill, the Democrats put in a provision for a timeline to withdraw troops from Iraq. The Republican side and probably a lot of Democratic House members will vote against this bill. So most likely, there's a good chance it may not pass because of the politics that are being played, which just, what it does to us, it just delays the aid that we can give to the people who need it in Tulare County and the other affected areas. So there's no quick short-term solution to this, and that's the story, and I'd, like Connie says, I'd stick to it, Donnie. Other than that, I think I've probably talked long enough.
One quick thing, if I may, Mr. Chair. The handouts that you took back with you, I think speaks millions. I mean, a picture's worth a million words. I think when we go back, we need to be that prepared. I've gone back with handouts before, but it was white papers. What you took back was a quality piece. I don't know whose idea it was, but they deserve a raise. It's a quality piece. I mean, it was. Oh, God, he's taking it. Okay, what piece was it? What did it look like? Yeah, okay. It was quality, and when we go back, we need to go back prepared like that. When we leave something, it needs to be something more than a flat white piece of paper, something that was
this.
So great job. Whoever did that, that was a good idea. I think it probably left a lot longer lasting impression than leaving one of these there.
It absolutely did. I think when Supervisor Workley and I were in Boxer's office last month, she made it very clear. Pictures are very valuable. And that's in essence what we left, TCAG left in all our elected offices, was almost basically a picture instead of a bunch of words. So I
Wonderful quality handout. Good job.
I think that's a good observation. Okay, with that, we have a need for closed session.
Mr. Chairman, we do. We have items A through F as indicated on your board's closed session agenda. Items D, E, and F are off agenda. I do not anticipate any announcements.
Okay, one last comment. I want the board to look at the clock.
Yes.
And see what time it is.
Are we going to go eat now, then come back and take up?
We're going to go eat right now and come back. We got out of here quicker than we thought.
We did.
So back,
Thank you for
back to closed session at 1:30 then?
Yeah.
Don't need to.
Okay, do you want me to?
Boy, that one.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could take my computer and everything but the closed session.